Good afternoon, and thank you for joining RackWare's webinar for the financial services industry. Today, we will be discussing hybrid cloud management and how RackWare can help your organization protect applications, move applications, and manage applications in the cloud. Presenting today is Todd Matters, CTO and one of RackWare's founders, and myself, Stacy Piper, Enterprise Sales Director. Please feel free to ask questions via the message box during the webinar. We will answer these at the end. If we do not have enough time to answer all the questions, we will personally get back to you in an email. Here's our agenda for today's discussion. First, some housekeeping items. Everyone's placed on mute. We will open the call up for questions at the end of the presentation. Again, please feel free to ask questions via the message box during the webinar, and we will address all of these at the end of the presentation. If we don't have an opportunity to address all of them at the end of the webinar, we will personally respond to you via email. So for those of you who are not as familiar with RackWare, I'll provide a quick overview. RackWare provides solutions that help enterprise and large organizations protect application workloads, move workloads, and manage those workloads in any cloud environment. We've been providing cloud services for over 6 years to some of the largest financial institutions, enterprises, and organizations across the globe. RackWare is uniquely technology agnostic. We support all Linux and Windows-based applications, virtualized or on physical servers. We support all cloud providers and virtually all hypervisors. So Todd, since you have some direct insight with regard to a number of the customers on the slide here, can you talk about any of them and some of the challenges that they had that RackWare was able to address?
Yeah, sure. So in general, all these customers involve both migrations as well as disaster recovery once we've done the migration. Some of the migrations were data center to data center. The bulk ended up being to cloud. Some of them were actually cloud to cloud as well. One in particular was very interesting, very large financial institution. We did a migration of about 1,600 servers into a cloud environment. And the interesting thing was, at any given time, only about a third of those servers needed to be running. So what they were able to do with the RackWare software is institute our hybrid cloud management solution. When workloads were not needed, the software saved off the image state to a storage location, deleted the virtual machine, and then at a later time, when that workload was needed, could be days, weeks, even months later, then the software can rehydrate or restore that image. It would provision a virtual machine in the cloud, restore the image, and then resume operation. So by this mechanism, the customer ended up saving 60 to 70% of their overall cloud costs.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, it's pretty much a given that as a financial institution, you have a disaster recovery plan in place. The latest information from Gartner says that 96% of you have an active DR plan with basic replication and backups as the primary methodology. And then a little over half have some active-to-active implementation. What's more concerning is that these plans predominantly just cover the Tier 1 applications. The Tier 2, second-line applications that run on the back end of the business are, for the most part, unprotected. The second point is that as part of your DR plan, validation testing is spotty. Approximately 30% of institutions run DR tests quarterly or more. This leaves over 70% of institutions' Tier 1 applications at risk for recoverability. The CIO from one of our financial sector customers commented, "We have to maintain system availability and visibility into that metric. It is critical for the business side to relay trust and gain further confidence in business from our customers." It's not uncommon for many of our customers to have a hybrid cloud strategy. Performance and latency are of major concern, and while the cloud has improved, you can't get the same level of service as a physical data center. In addition, there's fixed costs in real estate, equipment, and infrastructure, as well as staff. While security and control of data remain key concerns for CIOs in the financial sector, most public cloud providers have proven that in many ways their clouds are far safer and more resilient than a physical data center is. The more overwhelming issue is cost and resources. It's widely known that rough IT activities, when unchecked, can run up significant cloud resource bills. Preparing traditional applications to run in the cloud, the needed IT skill sets, time, and a myriad of vendors and tools is daunting. It's critical to plan your cloud migration strategy develop the right hybrid approach, and carefully select solutions from vendors that simplify the process and reduce vendor sprawl and technology lock-in. Tier 2 applications are prime targets for moving some of the data center workloads to the cloud. Many of these applications are less dependent on performance and latency and are being delivered as a SaaS option, further increasing their viability into the cloud. The majority of financial institutions expect company revenue to increase in the next 2 years, which trickles down to IT budgets. Organizations are more frequently investing in new technologies as a result of new initiatives. The financial sector is still trying to figure out the cloud. Currently, quote, cloud is synonymous with SaaS, which is the first step toward the actual cloud. Hiring and retaining IT roles is an ongoing challenge, potentially because financial is difficult to position as a career opportunity for newer IT professionals when compared with other more fast-paced industries. 2 non-SaaS use cases leveraging the cloud are using it as a DR site and doing application development and testing there. The key to leveraging the cloud for DR is managing the effort needed to prepare workloads and move and work in the cloud. Then be able to simply and quickly move the workload back to the primary data center. Many solutions are a one-way ticket, alter the workload, or require expensive and invasive appliances and agents in the data center. Leveraging the cloud to do test and development can be a blessing to the IT department, as users can spin up work environments without engaging IT, reducing overhead, as well as speeding up the application development. What is critical is managing cloud costs. So solutions need to be considered that monitor and manage cloud resources intelligently and automatically, while ensuring governance and security. In a recent survey done by CIO Magazine, 4 areas of focus were identified as those to pay attention to during the cloud adoption process. First was technology. There are complex issues about how to integrate the cloud and legacy environments at different levels of the technology stack and cloud services. IT must adapt and put in place the necessary tools to manage the new hybrid environment. In other words, people. IT will move toward a more agile approach with cloud is adopted, and staff will lack experience consuming and operating technology as a service, as mentioned earlier. The CIO needs to transform existing capabilities and operating model to enable an agile approach by bringing the application and infrastructure closer. The third was process. IT organization needs to adapt cloud processes. IT needs to be able to move workloads from one service provider to another to take advantage of price evolutions and adjust the capacity to the demand on a continuous basis. And finally, engagement. IT needs to be able to communicate with the business about how the cloud can support their needs. The CIO needs to demonstrate and drive value from the cloud. CIO needs to, with all the organization's entities, to ensure IT is influencing and preparing for these transformations. So RackWare works at the operating system level. This allows us to support physical and virtual applications in data centers and any cloud. There's a secondary benefit for the IT department. We provide a single solution where multiple tools have been needed in the past. Our solution automates many time-consuming tasks, improving a compression of 20 to 1 in tasks like application migrations. Policy engines drive consistency and cost management. Repeated tasks are automated and perform the same each time, reducing human errors. Disaster recovery synchronization and provisioning policies help balance RPO and RTO against cost. Governance policies ensure cloud resources are available to application owners and meet approved application standards and budgets. Automated tasks, self-service portal, and a single platform for all of your cloud management needs simplifies and reduces overall costs for IT. As you move more of your business into the cloud, with end users building applications and assembling their own workloads, tighter governance needs to be in place. RackWare lets you control what global templates are available, ensuring applications are developed on approved hardened platforms. Budgeting controls, including metering, billing, auditing, and reporting, ensure IT costs are maintained. So Todd, at this point, why don't I hand this over to you, and you can discuss the technology a bit further in depth.
Sure, thanks, Stacey. So there's a number of use cases that the software supports. However, they're all supported by a common underpinning technology. That technology is a replication and image management technology. It is a true any-to-any replication technology. So, for example, if you look at the left-hand side of this picture, the software works data center to data center, and that includes support for physical servers, physical on the origin as well as physical on the target. The hardware architecture doesn't have to be the same. So, for example, we can replicate from a Dell server to an HP server. The supported confluences include all the hypervisors, so the software can replicate from VMware to Xen, which is very commonly used in many clouds, or perhaps Xen back to KVM, which is used by many private clouds. But any of those confluences work, P2V, virtual to virtual, or for that matter, virtual back to physical. Of course, the software can replicate from data center to cloud. Cloud to cloud is becoming an increasingly important confluence as well. Enterprises or organizations are looking to consolidate perhaps on just a couple service providers, and during that consolidation effort there may be migrations, or perhaps the decision is made to do disaster recovery to a different service provider than what's being provided for the production services. Another important confluence ends up being cloud back to data center. That might be a little counterintuitive, but if you think about a disaster recovery failover scenario, that fallback needs to be just as seamless and automated and easy as the failover process. So what does this look like in the big picture? So first of all, let's look on the left-hand side. Let's say you have a set of workloads that need to be replicated to the target environment. Now we're showing the cloud here, but it could be just as easily be any environment, a data center. At the top, you can see the RMM, that's the name of the software, RackWare Management Module. It's very easy to spin up a virtual machine in a cloud environment. The software installs in about 20 minutes on a Red Hat or a CentOS virtual machine. Importantly, you don't have to install anything on the origin side. There's no agents to install. You don't need to configure access to hypervisors or storage arrays. There's no databases or staging virtual machines or virtual appliances on the origin side. The software simply connects in over the network at the operating system level. Software first does a discover operation. Now there's multiple levels to discover. The software by default will do a discover of the software and hardware and understand the metadata so that it can complete the replication process. There's deeper levels of discover. The software can discover application affinities to aid in wave planning and can also do an ongoing analysis, monitoring key metrics and actually propose right sizing of virtual machines. So after the discover process, the software non-disruptively does what we call a capture operation and can replicate the workloads to the target environment. After the replication, the workload booted on the target environment is identical to the workload on the origin side, with the exception of device drivers, because the hardware may be different, and there are many networking options that would allow the software to re-IP the images or keep those images the same. Another important capability is a delta sync. This is a highly efficient delta sync. If this were a migration, you could do as many delta syncs as you like during the testing procedure. Again, this is all non-disruptive to the origin side. And then in the event of your cutover, you could do a final delta sync and actually decommission the origin workloads after that cutover. Something else to note too, the software handles very complex workloads, tiered applications, network attached storage. We run into virtually, all the very difficult items that you see in an enterprise data center and have methods and mechanisms to replicate those to a target environment. Okay, so that first high level was talking about just the replication process in general that can be used, let's say, for a migration scenario. So the initial replication for a disaster recovery environment is actually the same. So you can use one piece of software, the RMM, to do both your migrations and DR. you only need to train one set of personnel to perform these operations. So again, the setup for disaster recovery would be the same. The software discovers, captures, and replicates the workloads. However, with DR now, you can create a sync policy or a DR policy. This is the policy that's going to define your RPO, your RTO, as well as other parameters about how you end up failing over. Now, I should also note here that there's a number of efficiencies here and options. You can do what we call just dynamic provisioning, where the software will perform the capture operation and just maintain that image in a storage location, not using any compute. And then only in the event of a failover with the software provision virtual machines on the target side, complete the replication process so you can fail over. You could also configure this to pre-provision the virtual machines. In that situation, you would have a very aggressive recovery time objective as well. And the whole point here again is the failover is entirely automated. Once this is configured and set up, it's literally a push button for the failover. The fallback is equally as seamless. Since it is a true any-to-any technology, to the software, it's simply reversing the sync direction and syncing from target back to origin. So another capability is advanced hybrid cloud management. Now again, under the covers, the hard technology is all the image management and the replication. Layered on top of that capability is a number of wizards and other features to enable advanced hybrid cloud management. So first there is administrative oversight. So there's a number of features around managing users, managing costs, metering, billing, creating pools of resources, providing approval structures for provisioning things. Most importantly, an audit trail for conducting audits and generating reports to upper management or other authoritative bodies. There's also a self-service component. So for example, for developers, there's a DevOps wizard. It's a simplified version of the DR user interface that's a bit more advanced. And the whole point here is there's all these features enable you to use cloud very economically. Everybody knows that cloud has the potential to dramatically improve the economies of your IT operations, but when you go to cloud, you have to manage those resources very differently to achieve that goal. And the RMM has been designed to accomplish such an objective. So if we look just pictorially what this looks like, again, we have the administration and the operations, there's automated workflows, but probably more importantly on the left-hand side, if you look at some of the objects that the RMM can create and manage. The first is what we call a RackWare discovery group. This is essentially a tiered application. The software has the ability to discover databases, understanding the tiered structure that includes up to 3 levels of tier. This object can then be managed and manipulated in its entirety. Now, this object also contains networking elements associated with it. So there may be load balancer parameters, static routes associated with it, ports that need to be opened and closed, firewall settings, and other constructs similar to that. Likewise, there's what we call a network profile. You can also create and manage just network profiles. And you can apply these network profiles and provision them with other groups of servers or independently to prepare for other operations. And third, you can also create just server groups and manage servers independently of the underlying network. So the unique combination of the ability to combine groups of servers with network entities, and then the network entities in and of themselves, and perform all of that with administrative oversight and the automated workflows provides a unique set of capabilities for you to achieve your cloud economies.
Perfect, Todd. Thank you for recapping and going into that further for us. So just briefly recapping some of RackWare's core focuses and features. First, we are focused on large enterprises and institutions, as well as their complex data centers. Our approach is comprehensive, and solutions are built on a platform that extends features and functionality across the suite. Many critical business applications operate in complex environments such as Oracle RAck and SQL clusters. RackWare moves and manages these in the cloud as simply as moving a web server. So RackWare is a proprietary cloud management platform that does not rely on other technologies for its functions. No VMDKs or hypervisor tool sets, no agents or disruptions to the origin, as mentioned. A few of the features our customers and partners are highlighting are the ability to provision in a DR or dev environment that meets the unique needs of that application, be it critical RTO or be it a critical RTO or dynamic environment you can choose. In your DR and dev environments, RackWare provides you the ability to vary your synchronization schedule at the file level, whether fine-tuning an application's RPO, managing network resources, or compiling application templates. It's in your control. The last thing we want to highlight is the ability to have RackWare monitor your cloud resources and apply auto-stop and auto-start policies to applications with variable compute times. Financial IT decision makers should know that the cloud environment has changed drastically, and evaluating IT has become a viable option. Performance and security are much better, and a lot of the applications that didn't used to run efficiently do now. We have helped many financial institutions protect, move, and manage those applications in the cloud. Carefully considering performance and security characteristics that are available today will make a tremendous difference in the decision-making process. Many of our financial sector customers' primary environment runs on-premise, with RackWare RMM handling a secondary site for DR in the cloud. This configuration eliminates potential impact from a disaster event that could affect all physical locations. So we now have time to answer some of those questions. Feel free again to ask via the phone. Moderator, if you're going to go ahead and unmute those phone lines, if you would do so now, or via the message box.
Thank you. Yes, we have a few questions that have come in so far. The first question I have is, you talk about doing DR with databases. Don't all DR solutions service a database?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the latter half of that question?
I'm sorry. Don't all DR solutions service databases?
So I'm not sure what's referred to by our solutions.
Don't all. Don't all DR solutions.
Oh, don't all DR solutions.
Yeah.
So I think, probably all solutions service databases. However, the way RackWare does it is a bit different. So the RackWare native replication process supports virtually all databases without having to interface to database-specific mechanisms. The software does support that. You can extend a DR policy, and that extension would interface and engage some application or database-specific mechanisms. Our experience is about 95% of the time that's not necessary. That saves you licensing costs, by the way, very expensive licensing costs in the target environment. 95% of the time, except for the most complex databases, we can just use the RackWare software at a much more economical solution.
Perfect, thank you.
The next question I have is, what do I need to install in my data center? Do I need to have a cloud gateway? Are there extra servers or applications I need?
Yeah, so no. In your data center, you don't need to install anything. The software, again, let's assume we're migrating or replicating or doing DR to cloud. You only need to install the RMM software in the target cloud environment. From there, the software connects in over the network at the operating system level. There's no gateways that are required. There's no hypervisor agents. You don't need to configure access to storage arrays. It's all managed through the console on the RMM server in the target environment.
And I have one question left. How do I migrate back to the data center? I typically find that once I've migrated out of the data center, especially with my physical servers, that there's a lot of work to move them back into the data center. How do you handle this?
So that's a very good question. So the way the RMM handles it is the RMM treats all servers as though they were physical. So the base core functionality supports replicating and syncing from a physical server to a disparate physical server. Now, even if there are virtual machines, software doesn't touch the VMDK at all, doesn't touch the virtual machine or the hypervisor. Even if it's a virtual machine, it will replicate and sync that virtual machine as though it were a physical server. So since the software can go physical to physical, that also means it can go virtual back to physical using the exact same methodology. The way that it does that is it understands where the touch points of the software to the hardware, it will load and configure the appropriate device drivers. So going back from cloud to physical is the exact same process for the RMM as going from physical to cloud. The methodology is the same, and the underlying architecture, again, just understands the touch points, configures the right device drivers, and you're up and running.
I have no more questions.
Okay, well, that will perfect. Well, thank you, Todd, obviously, for your time, and appreciate the insight into RackWare and our solutions. Thank you to the attendees that are on the line, and with you, if you have any questions or would like to discuss the solutions further and how RackWare may assist you in your present and upcoming initiatives, please do reach out to us via the email either on the slide or which was provided in your registration link, and we will be happy to do so. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.